Most people want to feel like they belong or contribute in some way, shape, or form to something. Jiu-Jitsu has taught me that you can be in a bad spot and not be in a bad spot. You can tell yourself that it will be all right. You can tell yourself that it doesn't last forever. And when you're in bad spots in life, that's valuable. That's really valuable. My name is Andrew Sajko, and I train at Port City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I ended up literally walking by this place. It's in a mall. I just walked in, and I've heard about it from like Jocko and like a couple other Joe Rogan podcasts and stuff like that. And like I've always been interested. I played sports growing up and stuff like that. Walked in literally same day. They're giving me a gi, rolling with me. I know nothing. I'm just getting beat up, and they said, "Hey, sign this waiver and let's train." And then I didn't miss a day. I just trained every day. I've done about 6.5 years in prison. I was always searching for something. Port City was beyond helpful. I let them know out of the gate, like literally my first day, like, hey, listen, like I have a checkered past, I just want to be honest with people. That way you give them the opportunity to gauge your character and who you are as a person. When I took the year off for having to go do another year, everybody was supportive. People bought me books, put money for canteen to get food. And I never had friends like that. So people talk about the community of jiu-jitsu, but it's real. It's real. I've always been cocky. I've never been confident, which I think there's a very good difference between those two. I was a cocky young kid. I was adopted from Russia at a young age, and I was never fit in. So like my goal was kind of just to be better than people at stuff in a very selfish way. I happened, even though my dad wasn't athletic who adopted me, or my brother, I just gravitated to sports and competition, and it doesn't matter if it's tetherball, doesn't matter, whatever. I'm going to practice at that thing till I beat you, and then I'm going to continue to practice so you never beat me. So I've always been very competitive, and I was cocky, meaning like I was not that nice about winning, and I was also not that great at losing. Losing was tough for me. Losing was horrible. Nobody likes a sore loser, and nobody likes a sore winner. Like there is nothing worse in any type of competitive field when somebody wins with disgrace or loses with disgrace. Yeah, I grew up and just wrong crowd, wrong people. Went to 7 schools in 7 years, constantly the new kid, constantly getting in fights. I was insecure, so my idea of being secure was if I could beat somebody up, or at least try to beat somebody up, then I would, I'd get confidence, or I'd get the girl, or I'd get whatever, and almost always that's not the case. And at 17, I was doing drugs, and drug deal went wrong. I was with my buddy, and 2 people got stabbed. They were both older guys, and we both went to jail. We ended up beating the case because they attacked us with baseball bats and pepper spray, and they were the aggressors. But I'm in jail at 17, not knowing what's going to happen, thinking I'm going to do some years, and I was angry, and I was upset, not at anybody, just myself. I always heard you have potential. I was good in school, but I always went to new schools. And then at a certain point, maybe 14, I stopped applying myself. I didn't go to school after 9th grade. Like I was good. I was all set. Like I knew everything, right? I knew it all. And that wasted potential thing like really like stuck with me. I was like, man, like there is nothing worse than hearing like wasted potential for me. I was just devastated by that. So I'm in jail, and a situation happens with a correctional officer, and we get into a fist fight, and you don't do that, obviously. So they shipped me up to prison at, I think I might have been 18 now at that point. I was close, or I think I was 18. I was in prison now awaiting a new charge, as well as the old charge, not knowing I was gonna end up beating the first charge. So I did 5.5 years straight, from 17 to 23. They sent me straight to SHU, which is solitary confinement, 23 hours in, 1 hour out, locked in. I did about 4 out of my first 5.5 years in solitary. Basically, once you get sentenced, I ended up getting a 1.5 to 4 for the correctional officer incident. I ended up beating the other case. And when I was in, basically, like I said, I went to SHU. So from SHU, after you get sentenced, then they'll send you out to C4, which is closed custody unit, which is 21 hours in, 3 hours out. And again, just how do I get in? How do I fit in? You know what I mean? Got in with the wrong people, the wrong group of people, constantly fighting, constantly going back to SHU, you know, because they call it upgrades. So if you're C4, the upgrade is SHU. You're back to solitary. So I did a 13-month stretch in solitary, went back out for 9 days, did a 6-month stretch, went back out for about 21 days, went and did another 6 months. You get the point. I resolved around C4 and C5 for 4.5 years, but 4 of them were in solitary. So I turned 6 months, that's what my pretrial was, to 5.5 years. And I had to look myself in the mirror and I said, what are you proving? Because that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to prove to everybody that I didn't care. But the thing I had to acknowledge is that I did care. Like, I didn't want to be there. So I ended up getting out. I ended up having to go through the whole system because they said you are essentially a detriment to society because you can't even behave in prison. You know, I had 90-something D reports in a short amount of time. So they said you have to go through the system, which I'm thankful for because it kind of matriculated to me really having to slow down. I still wasn't good yet at turning the other cheek, but I was getting a lot better about not putting myself in bad spots. Jiu-Jitsu has taught me that you can be in a bad spot and not be in a bad spot. You can tell yourself that it will be all right. And you can tell yourself that it doesn't last forever. And when you're in bad spots in life, that's valuable. That's really valuable. Just acknowledging that it doesn't have to be like this forever was something I just figured, yeah, that's not real. And then you do jiu-jitsu and you realize, like, no, like we're drilling getting out of bad spots today. We're doing positionals with somebody that's probably better than you, and you're gonna have to figure out a way to get out of this bad spot. It's very introspective because it gives you the idea that not everybody is gonna have the same experiences or the same ways to do things. You can see somebody getting out of side control differently and be like, wow, that really works. And then you try it and maybe it doesn't work as well for you. Maybe your limbs aren't as long. Maybe you're not as flexible. You know what I mean? Maybe you have to do a more traditional escape. Jiu-Jitsu is the greatest teacher in my experience of self-reflection. I don't know about everybody, but as a man, we're kind of searching for like who we are as people. And a lot of times we lie to ourselves to make ourselves feel better, to maybe get ourselves out of depression, to stop using drugs, anxiety, all these different things. And some of us get really good at lying to ourselves. We make reasons that are valid for why we are the way we are or why we continue to make certain decisions. I think the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is you can't lie, especially on the mats. You do it as much as you can do it, but the mat never lies. The mat tells the story. Whether you compete or you don't compete, it's like you know if you're growing. Comparison is the thief of joy, and that's something that I've realized is a lot of the time you go, I wish I did this earlier. I don't, personally, because I don't think I would have been able to handle it. Like, I don't think a 17-year-old me doing jiu-jitsu would have been able, because of my disposition, because of my lack of being able to control my ego. But then going through life and experiencing the things that I've done, it's ignited my ego, but at the same time calmed my ego down. And the reason I say it's ignited my ego is because it's made me happy to be me. Not self-centered, but it's made me and gave me purpose to continuously show up. We have a thing at our gym where we talk about, like, you're somebody's favorite training partner. Or, like, when you don't show up, somebody misses you. And it's not a guilt thing, it's just a thing of you're here for a reason. Like, people want to train with you. Like, I think that's the best accolade you could ever get. Like, I've competed since I got out, since December, 16 times. I've done decent. I've won some, I've got silver some, I've lost some, you know what I mean? But there's no greater accolade you can get than being like, everybody wants to train with you. Whether they're a female, whether they're a brand new white belt, whether they're 300 pounds, whether they're 110 pounds. It's important to change your life, not because other people tell you to change. It's important for you to have the self-realization that I need to change. And what jiu-jitsu gives you, in my experience, is people to hold the line for you. Meaning, they're not your parents, they're not your biological family, and they don't mother you. But if you tell them you want to do something, whether it's I have a goal of competing, whether it's I have a goal of losing weight, whether it's a goal of like I need to stop drinking, whatever it is, people will hold you accountable, but they'll also give you the proverbial rope to hang yourself. You're not on a leash, but the community of it gives you people who care. Like, some people don't have people texting them being like, hey, you okay? And as men, that does a lot. Like, I've already cried and I barely cry. Like, and they're but, and it's hard not to, because only you know where you've been. You know what I mean? And only you know where you're going, but you can't do it alone. Like, I believe in God, so there's a really good book called Pilgrim's Progress, really shines light to this, is everybody walks their own road. Everybody has trials and tribulations. And we relate over a thing that's jiu-jitsu. And to people who don't do it, you go, oh, you guys are just wrestling around. And it's like, no, we're building character. Like, we're building human beings to be able to face stuff in real life. And it's not like, oh, if I got mugged, I could mess somebody up. That's not the point. The point is, like, are you able to control the inner urge to quit? Are you able to control the inner urge to yell at your boss? Are you able to control the fact that you're uncomfortable? But how many people live their life uncomfortable? Most. Most people aren't honest. And it goes back to the mats don't lie. Is there is some clarity, almost euphoric feeling that you get when you realize, like, I was here today. Most people want to feel like they belong or contribute in some way, shape, or form to something. Even if it's something small. Even if it's, I'll not drill with my favorite drilling partner because there's somebody new there. And they keep saying, man, or if they're a couple months in and they go, no, go ahead, go with that guy, go with your friend, go with whatever. No, like, I actually do get more. I'm being selfish by trying to assist you. I'm being selfish because it makes me feel good. I'm not taking away any of my time. I train every day. There is more benefit in everybody in the room getting better than my own personal how good I can get in however amount of time. Like, that's honestly not that important to me. And I used to think that was the important thing. That was probably high on my list when I first started, is I need to get good. Like, I'm sick of people just beating me up. You know what I mean? And then you realize, like, my best favorite thing also is just surviving. Like, if you can just survive the night, and that doesn't mean not tapping, that just means, like, you survived another night of something that's hard, something that's difficult, something that causes you to lose weight, something that releases endorphins, something that just, again, gives you a purpose. And it's, even if it's for an hour, even if you can only make an hour a day, even if you can only make 3 hours a week, like, that benefit, you're just stacking points. You're stacking that in the right way. And, like, we have a thing in jiu-jitsu where you don't always go from a bad spot to a good spot. You go from a bad spot to a slightly less bad spot, to a slightly less bad spot, to a slightly less bad spot, to a neutral spot. And it's like, if you can just stack those points, or however you want to look at it, I think it's important. If you can't be comfortable when your mind's telling you to freak out, your mind's saying another man or woman is on top of you and you can't breathe that well and they got you in a chokehold, all you have to do is tap. All you have to do is, you got that one. And that's the thing in life I don't think I ever realized is like, they got that one. Like prison took 6.5 years of my life. They got that one. But they didn't get me for my whole life. They didn't take everything that I am. That's kind of like my theory on tapping is like, you have a new life. It's a video game. You have a new life. It's okay. You were in a bad spot. It happened. Yeah, you're in a bad spot, man. It happens. Life is gonna happen like that. But if you can reset, I think it's good. Jiu-Jitsu is a physical thing and it is difficult. But if I was gonna say, hey, you should try it, I would like to think somebody would ask me why I'm happy. Or I would like to think somebody would notice that most people that I've met through Jiu-Jitsu are happy people. They are people that are caring. And I would say, if you don't like where you're at in life, maybe it is time to start something new. And I know many people have been helped by this thing, and I do think it would be beneficial to people. I heard a story the other day where a woman lost her daughter, she was like 9, to a drive-by shooting. And she went to a church and said, all I do is drink, all I do is use drugs. Why would God take my little girl? And the pastor said, I don't know why. And he said, but I do know that if your daughter was here, she would not want you to do those things. And I think it's the same way when you start something new is you have bad habits and things that you're trying to let go of. And you ask yourself, or if you believe in God, you ask God, like, why do I keep doing these things? And sometimes it takes just a push from somebody or a push from something to get you into the line of thought of like, the people that you love, whoever that is, want what's best for you. And the people I've encountered, especially at my gym and some of the other local gyms, is they want what's best for you. It is not a perfect science. It is not, it's very individualistic in my experience, and I think that's good. And I think even though we have classes and all that stuff, I think it's important for people to know their names. Like I pride myself on knowing 95% of the people's names that come in here. Every time before class, I go and shake every single person's hand. And it's not an exaggeration. Like, I want to know everybody's name. Because, again, why do you start anything, right? Because you're curious, right? Why do you make bad choices? Because you're trying to hide. You're trying to get away from stuff. And in here, on these mats, we're all trying to get away from something. And it brings the commonality that, like, the worst thing that ever happened to you is the worst thing that ever happened to you.